It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller, Bueller, Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is The Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Welcome to The Focus Group. John Nash here, and as always, I'm joined by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett.
We're in jewel tones today, John. I just noticed that with your shirt.
Jewel tones?
Jewel tones, you know, heavy, rich colors.
Yeah,
You've
this...
got what color would you call that?
This is like a burgundy or a deep red. Yeah, and this is an authorized shirt. This looks good on camera. It looks good on me. It's authorized for wear. Allie's shaking her head. In our control room, our control room, the bridge of the show, if you would. We have John on video, Garrett on audio, and Allie's just back from Vegas. Allie, welcome back.
Thank you. And I would call your shirt garnet if it's a jewel tone.
Oh, garnet. What would I be? Am I sapphire or what am I? No.
Sapphire could be.
Yeah.
Navy sapphire.
I like a navy sapphire.
Maybe
Sounds
so.
nice.
Did you win? Did you win in Vegas?
I did.
By the way, they all win.
Do they?
Well, when Garrett goes out, he plays to win. Allie plays to win. John, do you win when you?
I don't know what I'm doing now.
No, I'm the same way. That's why I'm a slot guy.
Yeah, I would be with you on the slot.
Wait,
Yeah.
Allie plays Keno.
Yeah, slots are really bad odds. Slots and roulette, I believe, are the worst odds in casinos.
That's what we play.
Fun
That's what we get sucked into.
That's for the amateurs.
Hey, focusgroupradio.com is our website. Check it out. That has our audio, video feed, as well as all the platforms you could find our show on. And if you're joining us by Facebook Live or YouTube, welcome. Feel free to call anytime you'd like to join the conversation. The phone number is 877-962-6846. And we want to thank everybody who is subscribing to our audio feed for downloading and listening to our new Tuesday show called Unbuttoned. It's the Focus Group Unbuttoned. And I think that literally means we just do what we want to do on that one.
TFG Unbuttoned.
TFG Unbuttoned, that's it. That's the brand.
Unencumbered.
Unencumbered. It's a free-form conversation. This week, Tim and I tackled an essay that we had read by an author in London who basically claimed that older gay men are jealous of younger gay men because of how much inclusion and how great things are today, and our take on that is decidedly different. So by all means, if you're not an audio fan, subscribe.
Well, that was a nice way of putting it.
Well, you know, I always try to be a little nice, right?
I'm hoping that you're not so nice on Unbuttoned.
Well, I wasn't. I thought I was. No.
Well, that's why you
gotta
made it
push
sound
me.
like it was a very nice little conversation.
You got to push me. All right, so today on the show, we have a new segment, a new guest starting.
Yes. Oh, yes. Of course, you point to me, and I'm not, I wasn't prepared for that. Matt Skallerud is joining us. Matt's been a guest on our show before, particularly if you're a fan of ours from back in the day. But we're going to launch a new segment today. If you follow us on Facebook, which is Focus Group Radio, or if you follow our website, you would have seen it listed today. But we have a new segment called #ILoveGay, Influencer Spotlight by Pink Banana, with Matt Skallerud. It's a long title, and he even acknowledged it was a long title. But we're going to start that segment after we do our usual stuff and find out about social media influencers. What are you stumbling with here?
I am fumbling
like
with.
okay, like a raccoon at the can.
So we came back from a dinner. We were in town this weekend. We came back from dinner with Bob's mom and his sister, and waiting for us was this little tiny package from Amazon. Oh. The only thing is, Bob never ordered it, but it's to him.
It's to who?
To Bob. So I'm going to have, you can open it up. It's already been opened, and we're going to, and we open it, and Bob's like, what a mysterious thing. It comes from China. What the hell is this thing? And so his mom goes, oh, it must be a little flashlight.
Yeah, it's pretty. Can I open it?
Sure, go ahead. Nothing's going to happen. Well, now it looks like lipstick.
Is it lipstick?
We had to play with it and put a battery in before we figured out what it was.
Oh, I think I know.
So if you're listening on the audio feed, it looks like a lipstick, but I had to struggle with it to make it work. But that's the correct way the battery goes in.
Is it a vibrator?
Yes, it is. It is. And
with
so,
a little lipstick?
Yeah.
Well,
we can't. So this is what happened. Yeah. Oh my God. So by the.
I guess it's it's kind of nice because it's discreet. How do I shut it off?
I can't even figure that one out. I just usually unscrew it.
Ooh, John. I don't know. Oh,
There you go.
Wait
So
a minute. Why did he get this? Are you sure he didn't order it?
he did not, and there's this thing going on.
Untracked, it says.
Yes. Okay, so Amazon has this problem where companies will send people product and expect them to write a review about it. I've not been snafu'd by this.
I saw this on
Yes.
the CBS show, 60 Minutes.
That's what we. That's and
Did
that's.
you see that too?
And that's how Bob. Yeah. Here we go. Amazon says sex toys are being mailed to strangers and has no idea how to stop it.
I'm upset
Thank
I
you,
didn't
John
get
and
anything.
Garrett.
I'm upset I didn't get anything. Are you going to use this? Are you going to give it away?
Well, no. Well, the minute it happened, and Jean had no idea because by the time Bob figured out it was a vibrator, she had already thought it was a flashlight, a pocket light for your purse. So she leaves, Sarah leaves, and Bob just goes, "How did I get this?" I said, "It's this thing, this scam thing going on," and they don't know how to do it. So, what was your question?
Well, are you going to give it away? Are you going to keep
No,
it?
I'm sorry. That's right. So Bob hands it to me. He said, "This is for the show on Wednesday. You got to have Tim open it up and play with it." So that's so that we kept it for the show.
Are you going to do anything with it when you're done?
No.
What are you going to do with it? Throw it away? Or are you going to use it? Maybe Allie wants it. Allie, would you like that lipstick?
No, but I did have one of those. When I lived in California, someone told me about it, and they were like, "This is so good if you're stuck in traffic, because there's a lot of traffic. You can just, get at it."
Here we go with LA again. Okay, I have many friends who live in LA, and one time I was on the phone with one of them, and he told me about a book that he had just read on his commute to work, which was an hour in the car every day. And I'm like, "How are you possibly reading a book in the car?" He goes, "Oh, I do it every morning." It was the book on tape. That to me is not the same
It's
as
not the same as
reading a
sitting there
book.
reading.
I get it, but
I don't think you should throw that away, though. I think you should hold on.
save it or save it.
It could be
Okay.
a stocking stuffer, so to speak.
I thought you'd enjoy it, though. I thought you'd enjoy it.
It's got quite a little bit of vibration to it.
Yeah, we were surprised, and from the China's the Middle Kingdom, from the Middle Kingdom to your kingdom.
Well, that'll be good then. We'll have to ask Matt Skallerud about that as terms of whether that's a good use of influencer media.
Oh, Bob thinks it's Bob said to me, he goes, "They probably make this thing for like 6 cents. What's the cost in postage? Another 14 or something because it's slow boated. They probably put them huge containers of these things." And
Well, here's the question I would ask Bob.
yes,
Obviously, he was profiled. He's ordered.
He's
ordered from Amazon. So what has he ordered that would allow him to be sent a vibrator?
So,
Like I order pistachios from.
do you leave
Amazon.
reviews?
Yes, I just started because I've been getting pestered to leave reviews.
Well, okay, I get
But I left it
I
for
get
nuts.
pestered all the time. I just click.
Oh, I didn't
goodbye.
know. I thought I had to do it.
No, you don't have to. That's how they
got
get you. I
Turkish
thought I
pista-
had to do
I
it.
got Turkish pistachio nuts, and I reviewed those.
Were they good?
They were good. I thought they were a little high priced.
I only leave reviews on some of the Amazon marketplace sellers, not Prime, but people that run their business.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get the package arrives perfectly, or there's a little note, "Enjoy your product," or whatever, and I think that's nice. But apparently, he was scooped up in a bunch of people who left a review for some product. Then that they literally just pick up the. Well, that reminds me of the time I thought that all our bandwidth was being used up by Bob watching CNN clips. And then you're like, "What's he watching CNN at 7 in the
not
morning
watching
and 11 at night?" I'm like, "Oh." And then he's like, "You're watching porn on the 4G.
Right, on a Friday when you're not there. That's where that vibrator came from. I bet if you did a little digging into
Then
Bob's account.
the funnier part of that was you should say, "Find out what he's watching. Find out what he's into." Yeah.
Well, that's happened with someone in my job. They had to talk to one of the employees who was watching porn too much after hours.
How'd the company had
The company found out that they were following what you did. And I was more concerned as to what kind of porn.
Yeah, see, you don't care that they're watching it.
She would never tell me. The attorney would never tell me because I said, I knew who the guy was. And I said, "What was he watching?" She said, "I can't tell you." I said, "Come on, give me the names of some of the stuff. I want to find out what he was watching."
Straight guy?
Yeah, but
That's a wide swath there, right?
he would come in sometimes at 2 or 3 in the morning to do work, and he was watching porn.
Oh,
He lived near the office.
he wasn't just watching it.
I'm just telling you what we were told.
All right. But you knew in the back of your head, you knew he was interacting with the porn
Apparently, he was speech writing. Or doing some
with
other-
one hand.
I don't know what he was doing.
Well, the show's already gone way off the
I'll
rails so
stop that.
far. So what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Well, John, you know that you and I talked at actually we talked at lunch about this, but I was looking for, I had an investment property and I wanted to buy a refrigerator.
Yeah.
So, you need to get some appliances. And apparently I missed this. I think had I held off, instead of buying the KitchenAid or the Whirlpool, I could have bought this Dolce & Gabbana Smeg hand-painted refrigerator.
That's all right. So Tim just put up, John and Garrett just put up a picture that Tim got of.
Yeah.
It looks like a box though, like a hand painted.
So it's one of these vintage, unique 1950 style single door refrigerator. It's hand painted by an artist named Gianfranco Fiorane.
Nicely pronounced.
In cooperation with Dolce & Gabbana. It's available exclusively in Les Etats-Unis, or here in the United States. Do you want to take a guess at what this refrigerator costs? So it's a regular size refrigerator, old school.
Hand painted.
Hand painted by iconic scenes of Sicily and scenes of Sicilian culture and iconography. There's 9 different refrigerators. They're beautifully done. What would you pay? Now, these regularly go for...
So you have 2 questions. What would I pay?
Right.
And what are they charging?
So I'll tell you a regular one. If you just went to the store and ordered one, they're they're about $2,000 to $3,000.
I was going to say 3,000.
Okay, so what would you pay for a painted one from Dolce &
Oh
Gabbana
no!
exclusively
Wait!
at Neiman Marcus?
I was going to say 3,000 because you're telling me it's a vintage refrigerator.
They're vintage. It's new.
Oh, okay.
It's done in the 1950 style vintage, and just so you know,
So they're charging.
It's stainless steel. It you have to defrost it. Remember the old days? Your grandmother had to take the stuff out if you had a 1/4 of an inch of ice and defrost it.
Yep.
So you have to shut the freezer off, unplug it, let the stuff defrost manually, put the stuff back in, make sure your stuff you took out of the freezer doesn't go bad. All this for the price of...
I'm going to say 8,500.
Boys, you want to go to the next slide? And they've already sold
Whoa!
out. They've sold out 2. 2 of the models are sold out. Those 2 have been sold out. $50,000 a piece. They went on sale October 2017 exclusively at the Neiman Marcus. And $50,000 a piece. 2 of the 9 models are sold out. Now, I tried to go in and click quantity. I was going to go order just to see what happened as I can get
Quantity
to the cart. Yeah, I guess they probably didn't want people to just go do that. But can you imagine now, if you get a close-up, I guess they're intricately painted, and this is a famous artist, but I thought it was a little bit absurd.
It's
Particularly when the Neiman Marcus has front and center the disclaimer on what it takes to own one of these in terms of just defrosting it and having a pan underneath to collect water. It's a 1950s style refrigerator, so it operates like a 1950s
How are they
style.
getting away with this with the Energy Star ratings and all
Well,
that stuff?
I don't know. Smeg, which I think is an unfortunate name, but a friend of ours has...
I think it's a
A
very
friend of ours bought
unfortunate.
one for her beach house. She loves it. It's $3,000. I think it's tall and it's slim and it's retro and it's cool, but I'm glad I got my KitchenAid.
When I looked at the deck, and I didn't read I read the name and I looked at the pictures and I thought, what is this? And I thought that this was a box that inside had some kind of lotion or cream or something.
really?
Yeah, because I thought and then the name, of course, which I find to be a little unfortunate as well.
Smeg. Smeg Refridge.
It's just
And it has Smeg X.
see,
Smeg X instead of another letter.
And what happens when you decide to remodel your kitchen? I mean, it's like, I guess it's funny money. It's funny money.
Well,
There you go.
the thing goes bad, right? How long does the refrigerator last? Then what are you going to do? You're not going to hang it up.
A lot of them last a long time, but you're buying something that's not necessarily engineered for the long haul, right? Because it's older style technology.
People got money to piss away.
Well, what caught my eye could not be any more different, and actually lowbrow and low rent in many ways. So last week you pondered about why we don't go to Toy Fair every year. Why don't we go to Toy Fair?
I want to go to
Well,
Toy
we should
Fair.
go to Toy Fair. Well, if we had gone to Toy Fair this year, this is what we would have seen.
Did you look up some toys?
Yes, apparently poop is the most popular kids' toy of the year. Poop. So toys were everywhere. Poop toys, poop and turd
Was this at the
toys.
Toy Fair?
This is the Toy Fair. We're everywhere this year, but it wasn't all fecal fare. Boogers, farts, and pimples were all the rage as well. The toy makers can't seem to stop pushing the limits, and so Gizmodo sent one of their writers in to experiment with the toys. And they had this was a list of their 7 grossest toys of all time.
Oh, I love this. So what was the plunger one?
All right, so the earlier one was called
Plunging poop?
Alex Brand's Plunge It. We've all been there, watching our friends plunge a monster turd out of the toilet and thinking, I can do that better. Well, this toy allows your children to learn how to properly plunge a toilet to get the stool to go down.
So you got to get on it and
Yeah, you got to, and it does something in the middle there, and it's $22, and they give it a rating of two turd emojis. That was that little thing that was up before, yeah. The next one, Mattel is in the frenzy now, and this is called Mattel Flushing Frenzy. Plunge It was just one of the many poo plunger games. Mattel's Flush and Frenzy also involved furious application of plunging tools. This time, players roll a dice which tells them how many plunge attempts they get. The loser is the player who sends the turd flying into the air. And the turd reminds me of Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo from South Park.
I was going to say, and it's got a big smile.
Big
nice
smile.
white
He's
teeth.
happy. Yeah, he's going down the toilet. So they rated that one two turds. There was something called Jack's Pacific Pull My Finger. I did not put that in there. There's something called Spin Master Dr. Pimple Popper, where children, like the game of Operation, have to pull pimples off someone's face. If they do it too fast, one explodes on them. This is all that you missed at Toy Fair. And the last one, which we have up on the screen now, is called Hasbro's Don't Step in It. The filthiest toy on our list earns its spot for the sheer number of poops involved. In Hasbro's $20 Don't Step in It, you create a ton of poop using modeling clay and a mold. Then you place them on a mat. Players spin a dial and take turns walking blindfolded and barefoot down the mat, hoping not to step in it. That rates 4 turds. So this is what we missed at Toy Fair, Tim.
So, I don't, you have to pick up after your dog. I've got 2 dogs, Spike and Trixie.
Yeah.
I hate even putting my hand in the bag, pulling the poop, and if you get any on my hand, it's a major crisis, and I don't want to step in it. I leave my shoes outside. I'll hose them off. I'll do whatever. I don't understand. I understand there's probably a fetish about poop, but I don't understand this thing with poop and kids.
Well, my mom would tell you.
Oh, she was a teacher.
Carol will tell you. And she used to think us kids. One day we were doing a road trip to North Carolina for a family vacation, and we were laughing about farts or something. And she said, you kids, you're obsessed with Tinky Poo Poo Bum Bum. Kids are obsessed with this stuff. Tinky Poo Poo Bum Bum. Tinky Poo Poo Bum Bum. And we all laughed and laughed.
You should get a T-shirt made. What was it? Tinky
Poo Poo
Poo
Bum Bum. That's a great shirt, actually.
That'd be a good shirt. We'll wear those this summer down in Rehoboth.
Focus group says Tinky Poo Poo Bum Bum.
Right.
There
It's
you
a night
go.
out. Do those instead of socks. Keeping in the theme of inappropriate, our business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Do you know who Sarah Blakely is?
No.
She was born yesterday, February 27th. She's 47
You
yesterday.
do know what you just said, like, I wasn't born yesterday. Yes, you were.
She was born yesterday. She's an American billionaire businesswoman and founder of Spanx.
You mean the...
The American intimate apparel company with pants and leggings. It was founded in Atlanta, Georgia. In 2012, she was named Time Magazine's top 100 most influential people in the world. She was also listed on the Forbes list recently as the 93rd most powerful woman in the world. So she initially planned to go to law school. She didn't do well on the boards. So she ended up picking up this job at Disney. And she did some Disney hostessing or whatever for a little while, decided that wasn't for her either. So she got this sales job at a company called Danco, which did fax machines and copiers and stuff. And she did really well. She excelled at selling. And she ended up becoming their sales trainer. So one of the issues she hated, because she had the Florida area, was she had to wear pantyhose. She hated wearing the pantyhose and whatever when she had to go to these sales meetings. But she did like the way that it kind of sucked in the tummy, and she had no panty line or whatever. So she was going to an event that evening and decided to cut the bottoms off of
This is how...
the feet. This is how Spanx came about. So she cut the bottoms off the feet and put on her slacks and wore her shoes. And she said they kept rolling up to her knees, because she didn't have the footy in there. But she said it still did what it needed to do around the midsection. So she had this great idea. She went and took some money out on her credit card and spent a couple years trying to figure out how she could develop this product. that ended up becoming Spanx. She went up to North Carolina and visited with a bunch of mills. She said every single place she went turned her down, told her she was crazy. She said the one thing she learned about that, she said the women's hosiery business was all dominated by men who didn't use the product. She said so they had no idea what she was talking about. So kind of as dumb luck would have it, 3 or 4 weeks later after she was rejected by everybody, one of the guys at the mills brought the product home and had his daughters try it, and they loved it. So he called her up to make a deal. And I love these kind of stories.
I do too.
So he calls up and makes a deal. He manufactures this. It said it cost her $750 to get the patent, and then she did $150 to register a trademark and so forth. She did all the marketing and everything on her own. Still was selling copiers and stuff on the side. Went to Neiman Marcus to a buyer. They didn't really believe what she was talking about. She went in with her outfit one way, changed right in front of the buyer, put the Spanx on. They're like, oh my God, they're sold. They started selling the product. Then Saks soon followed, Barney's, a bunch of other places. She sent a gift basket to Oprah.
It included, yeah.
And then she said a year later, Oprah put her as her favorite things, and her sales went from $4 million to $10 million in 1 year. And then she ends up quitting her job at Danka.
It's almost a threefold increase just because of Oprah.
And she has this very successful business. Of course, she's been on QVC. She said the next thing she wants to do is she wants to make the world's most comfortable high heel shoe before she
Good luck
before
with
she
that,
retires.
right? But I guess if she did it with the pantyhose to Spanx, she might be able to do it with the hose.
She's been on Shark Tank, which is one of my favorite shows. She was on Shark Tank as a guest investor on season 9. She's given a lot of money to. She started a foundation called the Sarah Blakely Foundation for women. She and Oprah have worked on that together. The money all goes to Africa. I often wonder sometimes about Oprah and a lot of these people. We have an awful lot of people as things here in this country have been under pressure and the government is slash funding with all kinds of areas. I often wonder, some of these foundations and nonprofits need to think about, I think, their own communities sometimes. That Telluride AIDS benefit you and I went to, all that money they raised for AIDS in Colorado, a big chunk of it went to Africa, which, while that's noble, there's so many things in this country that have been cut, particularly in this administration, that I think nonprofits and foundations should start looking a little more locally sometimes. That would be my only complaint about her.
Your only complaint.
Happy birthday. She and her husband bought the Atlanta Hawks.
A happy birthday slap. My only complaint about you.
$850 million. That drove me nuts about Oprah, too.
Well, she had that whole school thing going on in yeah, it's a lot of.
We got a lot of schools in the U.S. that are in trouble.
We have
a lot of women.
We have teachers in West Virginia who had to go on strike to get a raise that should be naturally given because they're so valuable.
West Virginia, by the way, did you see that Joe Manchin this morning on Morning Joe? He's such a smacked ass and a coward. He can't answer a question. They asked him about gun control or the AR-15. He couldn't answer the question. West Virginia, you need to get rid of Joe Manchin. He's a pussy.
That's from Unbuttoned on Tuesdays.
I was so angry with him this morning. He's a coward.
You're using the your anger is not the word I would have. I was very frustrated, but that would easily turn.
I was
to
yelling
anger
at the TV.
because
I thought, answer the question.
They're all playing their games.
Answer the question.
They're all playing their games.
Should people have the guns or not? Yes or no? It's simple. Do you want to be part of mass shootings or not?
Yes or no?
All right. Yeah, that's Unbuttoned.
That was a taste of the Tuesday show. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Sponsor driven.
As many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group. Today is the last day for a great coupon they had for the month of February. You can still use it today, February 28th. 15% off your entire order. The code is FG15. And it's good on anything you order except for games, game consoles, and accessories, which Tim and I are not upset about because we are not into that, but we are into Deep Discount and the website. And this week, the sale that we were focusing on is award-winning movies, and I think that's cool because we're coming up on the Oscars, right?
Yes.
So previous award-winning movies we've looked at, and Tim and I each went through the Deep Discount site, and the one that instantly catches my eye, it's a movie I can see, I don't know, you could tune in any point, and I'll watch it end to end. Working Girl from 1988 with Harrison Ford, Sigourney Weaver, and Melanie Griffith. I think we have an audio clip that I brought in from Working Girl, and this is Sigourney Weaver telling Melanie Griffith how things should be done in the office. she's sitting in there and she's
People's
like,
impression of me starts with you. You're tough when it's warranted, accommodating when you can be, you're accurate, you're punctual, and you never make a promise you can't keep. I'm never on another line, I'm in a meeting.
I'm never on another line. I'm in a meeting. So I picked, it's on Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray is digitally remastered. So it probably looks like the day it was released in 1988.
I love that movie.
I love Working Girl. I love the performances in there, and particularly some of the comic beats. Like Sigourney Weaver is a great comic actress. I think when she's not killing aliens, she does this really well. What'd you pick?
I picked, and you'll laugh at me about this because this is the very last, I would say, mainstream movie that I saw in a theater.
And
So
you're
it was
calling this
2006.
mainstream? Okay.
Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah,
that's not mainstream. For me, it is.
I love the movie.
So I love the movie, and deep discount right now. Before the 15%, it's under $6
Really?
for DVD, and has and I've got to order it because it's got some deleted scenes in it. But I love everything about this movie. It's one of those situational comedies that I just adore. There's a dysfunctional family. The little daughter goes into this beauty pageant, and anyone who's watched any of those things on TLC knows how they paint up those little girls to be so ridiculous. Well, this is just a normal little girl, got a little bit of extra weight on her. She doesn't have the costumes or anything.
She's got the heart.
And her cocaine snorting grandpa, Alan Arkin, is giving her routine that she's going to do at the big Little Miss Sunshine pageant. Her father is a life coach. They've got an old busted down VW van that needs to be pushed to get them going. They make the trek from Arizona to California, and all the craziness that happens. Steve Carell's in there as well, who tried to commit suicide. I mean, the brother doesn't talk. I mean, it's a wonderful snapshot of, I think, life nowadays, in my opinion, and I love the movie.
You almost wonder how it was pitched. When they pitched it, like, okay, here's the setup. It's a VW bus. It's a family. The grandfather's we see Alan Arkin. He's going to be snorting coke and teaching them. Like, how you pitched that?
My cousin had that bus, and I remember this. Whenever he would visit my grandmother, he'd park on a hill
so you could get it started.
So that we could push him and get it going. For whatever reason, the stupid starter would always go in those things.
And they didn't fix it, so let's get started by rolling.
But that was okay then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we were okay with that stuff. Now people would be so wound up.
Nobody wore seatbelts back then.
Oh, that was
that was
old days.
Yeah. And the new release of the week, in fact, the new releases for all of March that we're going to be talking about as the weeks go by for Deep Discount are all up for Academy Awards in multiple categories. The new release this week is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I have not seen it. I am definitely going to pick up the Blu-ray because I've heard nothing but good things about it.
I've heard a lot of good things, too, and I love Frances McDormand.
Who's supposed to be great. So it's furious with the local authorities' inability to name a suspect in the brutal murder of her teenage daughter, Flinty. I like that word. Divorced mom, Mildred Hayes, Frances McDormand, took out the titular signage to publicly challenge the competency of ailing Sheriff Bill Willoughby, played by Woody Harrelson. Later in the description, it says, "This darkly comic thriller." The dark comic part didn't seem to match up.
Oh, I think it's great. But it's funny. A lot of people are imitating this Billboard thing now. I saw a thing on the news where, particularly, a company in Philadelphia put a billboard in the Cleveland area to try to get people from Philly. Yeah, so people are doing, are mimicking the movie. So yeah, that sounds like a.
So definitely, if you haven't seen it in the theaters, I would pick it up. And one thing that Tim and I like to say about Blu-rays and DVDs. You know, I like packaged media. I like discs because you could let people borrow them. Like, I have never had someone borrow a download from me. That's kind of hard to, is it encrypted? Can I watch it? Can you watch it? Can I watch it? So it's easy to just hand someone a disc and say, you're going to love this movie.
So it's Working Girl, Little Miss Sunshine, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Be sure to today, if you're watching on our live stream or listening a little later on, you still have a chance to get 15% off at Deep Discount using the code FG15 at checkout. Be sure to go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the logo. That's how you'll get there and start shopping. Right, Garrett?
Thanks, Deep Discount.
You're a little slow today, Garrett. Are you okay? Are you looking at those pictures? Hey, we'll be right back. We've got our new segment with Pink Banana's Matt Skallerud, hashtag I Love Gay, the influencer spotlight. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Jet is absolutely fun to drive. The feel of it when you're going down the road, especially this one, that everybody looks at it and waves at you, and it's just a blast.
Just get a feeling in a Volkswagen you don't get in another car. It's kind of funny to say. It's almost like it's got a mind of its own. It's got feelings. It's got a heart, you know?
My favorite little pieces of the car, my interior, my VR6 motor. Love the VR6 motor. It's a Volkswagen. It's built with quality.
I got the Jetta about 9 years ago. The fun things about the Jetta are, it's a comfortable car. I love driving it with the windows down. Those are my favorite memories.
I knew I wanted Volkswagen, but I chose the Jetta because it was four-door, it had plenty of space for me and my dog. My car is so fun to drive.
It definitely is fun to drive. Cruising down the freeway, somebody passes by, they turn their heads. It's a good feeling.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is the site. You'll learn all about the show there, including the platforms we're on, and we have our video and audio streams there, including the new Unbuttoned, available on Tuesdays. I'm pushing Unbuttoned.
DFG Unbuttoned.
DFG Unbuttoned.
Yeah.
DFG Unbuttoned.
Hold on.
Tim's a better brand policeman than I am often.
No, well, you labeled it differently.
We did. Yeah, we had to because
I went and relabeled it.
Yeah. Oh, I did that, did I?
I did.
All right.
We're doing business before.
We're doing business.
Catch up.
Sitting next to me is none other than Matt Skallerud, a good friend of ours, who chose today, unwittingly, to blend the two of us.
Ah.
He's got a little bit of red, and in the collar, there's a little bit of blue.
Rose between two thorns. But you said you wore pink for a reason.
Pink banana. I just thought I would kind of go with the theme.
Yeah.
So Matt is the owner, would you say president, owner, chairman, emeritus of Pink Banana Media. And now he's going to be helping us with a new segment called #ILoveGay, the Influencer Spotlight. And I think that one of the reasons we wanted to have Matt on, and one of the reasons he wanted to join us, was to talk about the very different world we live in now with how companies talk to us, advertising, media, and marketing, and this notion of influencers in general. We were on the phone prepping for our conversation, and when we were kids, an influencer, I suppose, would be an athlete, or even Tony the Tiger, I guess, was an influencer. Get those box tops because then you can order some. But you've expanded that definition, so we're going to get there in a sec. But why don't we first talk about the state today of a media situation we've all matured in, and that's LGBT media.
Yeah. Well, let's do a little geeky history first.
You're allowed? Okay.
Only 60 seconds. And no, I was lucky because I was involved with the LGBT internet back in the 90s. And back then it was just very different.
What were the sites? You owned
GayWired.com.
Yep.
And we had SheWired and GaySports.com. We had this whole network, but the Gay Web Monkey is the...
Yep, I remember that.
So that was fun. And we sold that to Hear Media and kind of moved along into what we're doing today. But no, back then, it was just very different. You would create a website, and the website was content and personals, and we had retailing and so forth. But you would be able to keep people captive in those sites for sometimes an hour. And so they'd come in, because there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't MySpace. Remember MySpace?
Yep, I do.
There weren't these things that were distracting them, and they would spend their time. And if your business was selling banner advertising and so forth, you did very well. The geeky part is that you had, on average, about 10 page views per user. It's the page views. Google Analytics, they give us all this number. How many web pages does somebody go to when they're on your website? Back then, you can easily get 10 minimum, and usually a lot more. Today, it's 1 point something. That's the key.
1 point.
1 point something.
One and a fraction of a page.
And that's the key. That's the geeky fundamental part, is that you go from all these page views once upon a time down to this, and that's because at the time they would go to your front page. They would discover what you had, and plus there was personals and all the things before social media. And if you just fast forward to where we're at today with this 1 point something, that's where you have Facebook and so forth. And now people are saying, I don't know what I'm looking for in terms of content, but I'm going to find out what my friends are interested in. And so they see a really good headline, they click, they go, but they don't stay. And a lot of media companies, even just any company with a website, they have not always been aware of this trend. They went from a lot of page views to very little. Google was somewhere in between here, where Google was kind of coming in and saying, don't worry, you don't have to navigate their website, we'll just help you through search. And especially with Google News. Google News was kind of, for a little while, the dominant way that this was that people would be able to find out what's kind of going on in the world. But today in social media, so it's that 1 point something, and that's key, because what it's done is it's shifted the power from, wow, I really want my website to be perfect, and that front page is got to be designed just right to drive traffic, into, I got to make sure my headline is really, really good. And so there's a whole business, and a lot of things have developed from that. But so businesses are figured out. That's why Google and Facebook are the top places that all this ad revenue is going to.
And that's why. So is the behavior because back in the beginning,
yeah,
there weren't a lot of places you could go to, so you would stay longer because you knew, okay, if I get out of here, I'm not going to find something else that's like Gay Wired or one of the other sites. And now, if you don't like something, you know you can just go search and find a million other things like it. Is that what?
Plus, there was a lot of
driving it.
Plus, a lot of the personal side, because now your social aspects online are really through social media. But back then, that didn't exist. So
for the LGBTQ community, GayWired.com was a little more than a destination.
Yeah.
I mean, it was more of a community in some senses. And now you're saying that kind of community has been moved to our networks and friends on a Facebook kind of situation.
Yeah, and so businesses have known this for a while. So they're spending all their money on Google and Facebook. But the dynamics continue to change there too. So all of a sudden, Facebook, it's become more expensive to advertise. And if your personal and your business persona are kind of merged, you can do very well on Facebook, where you can post about this show, or you can post about a destination, and get really great visibility and engagement and so forth. But if you're not, if you're distinct between your personal life and business life, and you post business things onto a business page, doesn't really get seen that much anymore. And so that's really key.
Would that be like a LinkedIn?
Well, kind of, but what Facebook being the dominant one, now if you're trying to get people to be aware of what you're doing in business and it doesn't show up that much, business companies are going, what else do I do? And so for a while they've been looking Instagram, Twitter, and looking, what's going on there, and all of a sudden that's where the influencers are at. What is an influencer? That's another little geeky story. I mean, you look at an easy example is Australia, Tourism Australia. Years ago, they're on Instagram. They're doing. There's case studies about them. They did very well, but they would find all this user-generated photos, and they would take some of those and they would repost them
that's
out there.
vacationers that are they're visiting Sydney, or they went out to Ayers Rock or something, and they're sharing that.
Yeah.
So they somehow hooked into that?
They did it the hard way on Instagram. You would repost it. It's not as easy on Instagram. They do that on purpose. But so all of a sudden you've got this Tourism Australia's kind of giving people their 5 minutes of fame, where all of a sudden they pick some really good photos, they get it out there.
Okay.
And the thing is, some people wanted to have more than 5 minutes. And some people, they saw that and they're like, wow, I like this. And that's just one of 1,000 stories of how influencers came to be. But Instagram is strong, YouTube also, for those that said, I have something to say and it's on video. And so they're out there and they've got these followings, and that's part of the equation. But the other part that you see is very much on Twitter, where if they're posting these photos, they're posting video, but also it could include bloggers. And they've got all this stuff, but then they want to share it with the world. So they're sharing it, and when they share it on Twitter, Twitter's much more wide open. It's like the big city where, it's just,
So your example, though, of tourism and a destination, there's a sexy quality to that. There's a very built-in photo quality to it, where you can share your experience. What happens if you're a business that doesn't have that appeal? Maybe you own
a new salon in town.
Yeah, or you own a company that has a maid service or something, a cleaning service. How do you say, how does that business, how do they get their customers in this new?
Yeah, well, they've still got to come up with some sort of fun way, whether it's a salon. There's all sorts of, take photos before and after. This is what the person looked like when they first came in, and this is what they look like
that
coming
one.
out.
Okay.
Well, that's the whole deal, is that when you're out there and you're posting these, it could be posted on Instagram, but when you're really focused on influencers again, it's people who are posting, sharing their photos, their video, but they're also using this kind of structured language, hashtags, linking up the profiles of who they're talking about, and then also they're engaged. So it's kind of two components. They're posting these things properly. They look really good and compelling, and there's a lot of answers for any businesses. But they're posting them, but they're also engaged with others that are similar to them. Like if it's gay travel, or if it's gay travel in New York, they know there's others that are out there. They're engaged means they like, they comment, they share, they retweet their stuff. And so all of a sudden you've got these whole communities out there. And essentially, it's not just influencers anymore. Once you start looking at it this way, you realize, wow, a lot of companies get this. It's a lot of the nonprofits, Lambda Legal, HRC, they're influencers in this definition, where they're out there posting, and that's the right way. They're engaged with their user base. And when you see their activity and you see the numbers, it's incredible. Pride Festival, same thing.
So I'm confused about these hashtags. So here's why
I knew that.
I listened to
hashtag.
to some of these other web series or podcasts, and the person will go, and then I hashtag went to the store, and then all of a sudden I hashtag pulled my pants down, and then I hashtag. So
hashtag dream whip.
So they're talking in this language.
Yeah.
But and I know we've called this based upon you hashtag I love gay. So what's the purpose of that? So if I am Joe Smith and I'm sitting in Des Moines, what do I go to Google and hashtag I love gay or hashtag something, and then something comes up, or where does that come into play when you hashtag these things?
Whether it's Instagram, Twitter, you're there, people are on their phones and they're kind of perusing through. You see some photos, you like what you see, and it's hashtag gay travel. So maybe you're thinking, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm interested in gay travel. You click that hashtag, and now it's going to show you some of the top other photos.
It's on gay travel
that people have posted. So it's kind of like back in the day when you were trying to put keywords in your website for search. Now it's kind of a keywords in the form of a hashtag in social media.
So would you do that on Google? Would you go into the Google search and do hashtag?
You can actually,
gay travel, and
Google,
will come up?
because Google is always trying to integrate social media in different ways. So if you type in a hashtag, they will give you kind of direct links to some of the top tweets. Usually, it's almost always Twitter.
But if you don't use Google, you could use hashtag sorting within the different platforms.
Yeah, if you're on Twitter, you click on if it's hashtag gay travel. If you're in Iowa and you're interested in gay life there, and you're looking at a photo or you're looking at a tweet, and somebody else hashtag gay Iowa or gay Cedar Rapids, you go, oh, that's interesting. Let's see. Some people use, others are not, but means nobody's using gay Cedar Rapids. But, just because it doesn't really. But they are using like hashtag gay Miami or hashtag gay NYC. You figure out which ones are useful.
So you make it sound. I take that back. It sounds, the way I'm interpreting this, that hashtags serve a behavioral function for how you want to access information. Does that? I'm probably not in the right zone.
Yeah,
would you phrase that differently?
It's search. I always look at it like search. You want to be discovered. So when people hashtag, they're really putting themselves out there, so they can be so that their post, their tweet, or Instagram photo can be discovered, so people can find it. So, which is why Instagrammers had lots of space for it, so they would put lots and lots of, way too many.
Oh.
And in fact, one of the hot ones was Instagay, so, But then when I was talking to these guys in Brazil recently, they were at they were out during New Year's, and I said, hey, what's the number one app that they use in Brazil? Is it Grindr? Is it Hornet? What do they use? He goes, Instagram. And we just follow. I think they have actually their own special ones for. They find somebody that they like on Instagram through a hashtag. They may have one just more for Brazil. Click on it, just say, "Hey, what's up?" That sort of thing. But it's very
wow.
It's very real time. It's very engaged.
And that's almost, since it's not an app, there's almost a quality of running into someone in a bar.
Yeah. Or on the street. Hey.
I like the look of you. I think I'll say hello. But it's not because they're on an app. It's because they like the pictures or the activities, right?
It was a good answer. It was interesting. It was not what I was expecting at all.
No, and I'm sure Grindr and some of those sites don't like it either, right?
I'm sure they do not. And so you're seeing that, but to close the idea of hashtags, I always say, think of one for themes. Gay travel's easy. Gay sports is also, but you're not just making them up. You're finding out what are people using. So you just type it into your Twitter or Instagram search, and you'll see what's going on.
So how did you come up with hashtag I love gay?
Well, we wanted to come because that's when the three I was saying, one for theme, one for region, because sometimes we want to be found regionally, and a third that could be more specific to an event, IGLTA 2018. I love gay. So I love gay was a way to kind of like separate out the conversations from people that wanted us to notice them. Because I Love Gay is a business where all we're doing is we're participating in those conversations just like an influencer. Just like Lambda Legal and HRC, well, they're all playing in that sandbox. And NYC Pride, same thing. So all of a sudden, I Love Gay. So we have I Love Gay Theater, I Love Gay NYC. And each one will kind of focus on, I Love Gay Theater focuses on theater worldwide. I Love Gay NYC focuses on things that are happening in New York.
Okay.
We have people following both. And if they are following both and we post something about New York theater, there's a really good chance they're going to see that. And businesses that want to participate with us, a lot of times they'll use hashtag I Love Gay, so it shows up on our radar, our editors take a look and go, oh, that's a good one. I think I'm going to retweet that.
I think when Matt returns from, you're departing,
Sydney.
You're going to Sydney, Australia. Cedar Fall. What was it?
Oh yeah, Cedar Rapids.
Cedar Rapids. I think when you're back from Sydney, we need to have a conversation about upgrading our hashtag process.
So this should be our segment then should be hashtag I love gay influencer spotlight.
Yeah. Because what happened was, since we started doing this like over a year ago, you end up engaging with lots of different individuals, including influencers. And so, especially in travel, here in New York, we have like Robbie Roth, Nomadic Boys are in London, a couple of men. These are all influencers that are out there that are very engaged with their own audiences, and we've just kind of stumbled into
these people make a buck.
Oh, all right. I was just going to literally say.
You probably would have been
I was going to say more graciously, how does one go about monetizing?
Monetizing such an endeavor.
The PC answer, but it's the real answer, is we're in transition now. Everybody's trying to figure that out, the right way. The simplest has been, I don't think it's the right model, but Instagrammers may have like 100,000 followers, and so companies will say, wow, based on my little formula in my spreadsheet, for 100,000 followers, I'll pay you $500 if you just post something about us. But it's very, I hate the word authentic. It's overused. But it's very inauthentic.
The case you're making, though, is that there's not a direct link between someone's followers and this little spreadsheet formula that says, well, we'll give them $500 if they wear our underwear.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't mean someone's going to go out and buy it. They might be engaging in the feed strictly for other reasons.
I looked at, Stuart Elliott from the New York Times. So we just had him on recently, and, a famed New York Times ad columnist. And he, in the space for decades, an influencer, I would say, right?
Yeah.
And went to Northwestern, great education within journalism, and now he's competing with some vlogger in a basement, right? So I'm trying to figure out how do we sort through this issue of just somebody that's actually really trying to do everything right. And maybe this is the bad example with Stewart, but I'm just thinking of somebody that's been established and actually worked as a journalist versus someone that could just get on and say, all of a sudden I'm going to start commenting on stuff and clutter the feeds. I mean, is there a way to ferret some of this out or no?
There's a different way of looking at that. Someone else would say, the guy that's coming in new and saying, I'm going to clutter the feed. Fortunately, they're probably not doing that. They're just posting things out there. They've got their own voice. They're going to say, I have a different style of wanting to do this. I want to disrupt this.
Okay.
So essentially what you're looking at is that Stewart has got to compete on his own merits, but in this new medium. And he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
So when I'm on Twitter, I see that he does great posts. He hashtags correctly. He'll connect who he's talking about with the @ symbol and connect it up. So, and all that does is it makes it so you're the tweets are much more engaged, and people could follow through and see who he's talking about. And he responds to things.
Right.
So he's,
that's another good point, by the way.
It's being engaged.
He's engaged, yeah.
But if he wasn't doing that, if he was doing what a lot of companies do, which is just sort of throw stuff up. They just think, I'm just going to throw these things out on a Twitter about what I'm doing. Maybe they'll just post from Facebook to Twitter, or they'll, what have you. And if they're not really paying attention to who's talking about them, they're not engaged, then it won't really work. Then one would say that those Stuart Elliott's of the world that used to be influencers in a different time, in a different medium, haven't adapted to where they're at. So you're seeing all these things play themselves out now. But the idea is that none of us has a choice, because all this is going on right in front of our very eyes.
Well, and there you go. And you just put a nice little cap on that with the facts on the ground. And the reality is, I could wish for the days of 10 newspapers, 3 networks, and X number of silos for expertise to come out of, and you had to be in that lane. Everybody's a publisher, or they can be.
Yeah.
And that goes to your influencer discussion as well. An influencer no longer has to be a top paid athlete. And we were on the phone talking about this. It could be a grandmother somewhere in the Midwest who's done a great job making Toll House cookies, and she shares that recipe. Nestle drops on, people drop on.
Everyone's making her cookies.
Yeah.
What's your biggest, so having been in this space for probably one of the original folks, Pioneer. What is your biggest challenge in trying to sort through this as you're working with companies or your own influencer network? What challenge?
Well, just the education side. Like the easiest companies for us to work with are those that are just that are speaking the same language. They're in that game. Anecdotally, I'll tell. It's a fun story. It is from where I'm sitting. I was sitting on the couch one day on a Saturday, and I get a Facebook message and from somebody I don't know. And so at first you're like, should I even accept it?
Yeah.
All right, accept, because I don't know what he wants to say until I accept it. So I say accept, and it's an agency with Bud Light, and they say we've created this video. It's July. We created it for Pride Month, but we have some time, and we really want to get a big push out in this week. And what can you do? And we want to work with all of the influencers you have listed on your site. And I was just like, well, I was feeling lazy that day too. So I said, well, I don't have time to drop everything and just go through and broker this. Here's all their contact info. You can make outreach to them all directly. It's easy to contact them anyway. You can just reach them on Twitter or Facebook as well.
All right, I see your point. Yeah.
But I made it easier for him to contact them. But he also worked with us. He had us do this thing, so we got out there and we pushed this video out, and so did almost everybody we work with. And within that week, they got what they were looking for.
Wow!
And it was just because they're in that game, they're in that space.
They understood what they were doing when they reached out to you, and so so on the education curve, though, you'll sit in front of a client now and then who doesn't necessarily get it, but they might get the edges of it, and
it's harder. We're a little spoiled because like last year Comcast gets it, so Comcast is doing hashtag Comcast Faces of Pride, which is their own unique hashtag for their Pride season last year. But they did all these photos, and they wanted the photos to get out, and then they did a lot of sponsorship of Pride, so they found us and it worked out. But also, we didn't work with them, but we participated and engaged with AT&T, same thing. Hashtag We Are Bold. And they did this great campaign, and they had Adam Buska that does the No Hate campaign. He went all through a variety of Pride festivals. He took photos for AT&T, and they had this fantastic campaign that was really Twitter and Instagram first, more than anything else. Now, anybody who's in that space, which obviously they're doing it for a reason, because there's millions paying attention, saw that right away. But for all the people that are not really paying attention, it wasn't a print ad, and it wasn't in other. It wasn't.
Well, now that you raise it, as you said that, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I read a great deal. I read a lot. I read all the time. But I'm reading aggregated news. I'm reading curated stuff, and I'm not on the social platforms. So there's that AT&T campaign, and the way you described it sounds like a really great branding effort, especially to reinforce their LGBTQ chops. Were they purposely directing that to the 18 to 35-year-old crowd? Because I think that, I'm not a Luddite, but I don't necessarily, I'm not all over hashtags either. So,
fortunately, you don't have to. Well, number one, I think they did want part of their answer was I'm sure they did want that audience, but the audience is moving up in that age group too, and the hashtagging is just a way to help that discoverability as we were describing. But the real trick is just simply if you post something good, and people are engaged with it, and they share it, and they like, and the next thing you know, that post starts to show up in other people's news feeds on Twitter. So people are paying attention, whether it's Instagram or, we all know Facebook, but this isn't a Facebook conversation. This is really Twitter and Instagram. But if you're on Twitter and you're on your phone and you're perusing, what you're seeing are things that others are engaged with. So if they post these things and they tag the right people that are in the photo, and then Adam Buska pushes it through his network, it starts to show up a lot on that feed. And my guess is that more and more of this, by the way, is probably going to merge into our mainstream life, which means more of it will probably show up into Google and those sort of places that are the Yahoo, Bing, Google, all the places that people kind of go to when they're first starting, maybe on a start page, because those are what's called trending.
Got it.
All this stuff is trending conversations, and they're all getting better and better trying to figure out, because that's what we want to know. What are people talking about?
Are you getting paid for this? I mean, will companies pay for are companies paying for this like they would traditional media then? So they're
very much so.
They're not afraid to say, "Oh, I thought it was going to be $30."
Well, that probably was a while ago. They thought it could be on the cheap, but now I think they probably have to.
But you had asked, like, how do the influencers make money? And I had given the one thing which I didn't believe in, which is that with Instagram paying somebody $500, but really they're learning how to work with brands and be able to. It's got to be more of an alignment. If it's like a sponsorship, a brand or a company would say that person or that individual, he seems well aligned with what we're doing. But for our own company, we've kind of productized this, which means we put packages together that said you could hire some influencers, come out to your destination, or come out to a Pride festival. They'll run around, take lots of photos, promote you, and then we'll take that and we'll promote it through a blog. We'll do a targeted Facebook advertised post, because Facebook's great when you pay them. Because when you pay them, they have
That's
really
a new algorithm too. Is now
it's probably the dominant one as far as if you want to reach let's just say the one I did recently, gay bears who want to go on a cruise. The only ways to do it is Facebook. And you
Yeah,
can
it makes
reach them.
sense. It makes sense. How else are you going to advertise that? Because that is like like X number of levels into the,
Yeah. Well, listen, Matt, we want to thank you for joining us. So Matt's so this new segment we have, which is hashtag I Love Gay Influencer Spotlight with Pink Banana Media and Matt Skallerud. So next time you visit us, are you going to bring us an influencer?
We're going to bring some fun people in here.
Great. So that was a good lesson for John and I because we talk about it all the time, and we need our own lesson in getting our messaging out correctly for social media. So thanks for joining us today. And John mentioned you're off somewhere. Where are you going?
Sydney, Australia. So yep, if you go on
Mardi Gras.
Wow.
Hashtag Mardi Gras 40. It's the 40th anniversary.
Well, we're going to check to see if are you trending right now? Did you check? I don't know. Maybe we'll have to see.
I'm just not popular enough.
So thanks for joining us, Matt. We'll see you in a few weeks when you bring some influencers with us.
When you're back.
When you're back. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, John and I have a quick shop talk about some of the boycotts of the NRA, some of the companies that are boycotting. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Been in business a week. I got more money than I know what to do with.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
Herrera Rocher. He is doing well.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is it's one page to visit. And maybe it's 1.4, right? You only have to go to that page. It has all the audio, all the video.
Not much more to go on.
There's not much more. Scrolls. Well, we kept it very clean and simple because basically, it's the video or the audio. I encourage you to check out our new TFG Unbuttoned. Am I on brand? There we go.
Yeah. So I went in and I fixed it.
And it's every Tuesday.
I can't do that.
And it's Tim and me being a little more unscripted or unbuttoned.
Like I was when I went off on Mansion earlier.
Which you have every right to because I'm so tired of all the posturing. Anyway, speaking of which, though, this was a notable week for me and Tim watching the news about the NRA. And specifically, we could have a whole conversation about where we're at as a nation with all that. We let that go to the talking heads and the pundits on the various networks. We were fascinated, though, by the various boycotts that have popped up about the NRA. And the number of corporations that have jumped off the NRA train. And I say that in a way, I should have rephrased that and say they're no longer they're not doing discounts, or they're just kind of backing away from their contract or partnership with the NRA as a way of saying, hey, I think that's the statement they're making, which is, hey, we're gonna step away from this Second Amendment debate and you guys hash it out, but we're not going to give a discount to people flying around. Right. I think that might be too simplistic because when corporate America does this, it does send a very big signal to consumers. And when consumers force a company to do it, it also reinforces a good bond. But there's a lot going on.
Well, the National Rifle Association, or the NRA, when we were growing up, it was a very different organization, I think. And
did you learn from them?
Yeah, and I shot guns as a kid. I
skeet
shooted. My family hunts. This isn't about the Second Amendment. This is about the NRA and the support of the NRA. Meaning now, do you want to be part of, or do you want to be part of the group that's responsible for promoting
safety?
People owning these assault weapons and semi-automatic, automatic assault weapons that are killing people. And it's simple math. If you look at what happened when we banned those weapons under the Clinton administration versus what's happened now when it was repealed, I think the number's over 200% of increase in mass killings with that one particular weapon. So this isn't about taking away guns, and that's what everybody thinks it is, or it's against the Second Amendment, but it's like, do you want to be part? Right, do you want to be part of the NRA? And just today, before we came on, Dick's Sporting Goods announced that they're going to stop selling stop selling that weapon, and all guns at their stores are going to be
so then what are the repercussions?
Age 21.
So you just brought up Dick's as they're not an insignificant chain when it comes to sporting goods, at least out of some of the urban areas. So what is the blowback to that, or the pushback if a Dick's does it? And Delta recently undid their relationship, and now the Georgia's lieutenant governor is
Cagle, well spun up, wants to take away their tax credit for Delta, and it is threatening Delta that if you don't rescind your boycott of Delta of the NRA, that we're going to stop your tax break, which I think Delta is the largest employer in Georgia.
33,000 private employees in Georgia.
And there's a $50 million fuel credit tax credit that Georgia has given, and he's threatening to say, well, if you continue to beat up on the National Rifle Association, we're going to take away that tax cut because you can't beat up on conservatives. And
so when you unpack that, you're assuming that Delta's beating up on a conservative. They created that theme, that narrative. You also assume that Delta is against the Second Amendment. They created that theme. That's not the case here. You just said it yourself. You have no problem with the Second Amendment. In fact, I think we should live to the letter of the Second Amendment. Every household gets a musket.
Yeah.
Because when you wrote the damn thing, that's the only gun that existed, was a musket.
And on one of the slides here, it was posted of what Delta actually said, and they've actually stayed neutral about the debate. I mean, they've stayed neutral about it, but it was this one issue about supporting the travel and the travel credit that they were going to have to go to the event. But from the business standpoint, whether any boycotts work, and they talk about this all the time, it really just raises awareness, and I think it's more about what these kids are doing and what these families are doing, and I hope they continue doing it. I hope these kids walk out of school. I hope they protest and continue to do it, because the NRA hasn't faced this before, and they got a bunch of coward politicians that are afraid because they're being funded by the NRA, that as this boycott becomes more mainstream, the politicians can realize maybe I don't need that money and I could still win an election, and I can actually have a spine and represent the people, which a majority of the people in this country don't think people need to have weapons of war.
That one, yeah.
And
hey, look, my brother-in-law collects handguns and firearms. The only time he ever opens them up is at a shooting range. It's literally you go to the range, you put the headphones on, everybody's clear. There's this, and I was taught by the NRA as a scout. That's how I was taught to shoot a gun. And it was all about safety.
Talk facts, John.
Yeah, I know.
The two that surprised me. So the two that have not
FedEx.
The other one's Amazon, which I was surprised about because Amazon runs something they stream NRA TV.
Yeah.
I was curious about that one because Amazon's been pretty aggressive culturally and socially, particularly with LGBT issues. Amazon's been out there, been very supportive of the LGBT community. I'm surprised on this issue they've been silent.
That to me, you and I have sat in meetings that have had discussions like this in past careers and past lives. So their web platform and their web services division streams this content. Right. And the interesting thing about that is if they choose to take action on that one, it would be a valid, I think, cry if they would say, well, why us? Why not these people too? So
you're going to advertise on Fox? Well, then you need to advertise on MSNBC and vice versa.
And so I think they're probably like, okay, well, let's just leave that alone because it really does open up a whole can of worms on at least the First Amendment issues of the right, the right to a certain speech. But from a corporate point of view, though, I'm curious about Delta because their situation is unique that a high-ranked politician in the state is threatening to rescind what was almost a week away from passing.
No-brainer.
$50 million tax credit. And then on Morning Joe recently, Joe Scarborough says, hey, Georgia, give Connecticut a call and ask them how it went with General Electric.
Those idiots are home
when
state.
they just ignored GE and they would treat them like, well, they're never going to leave.
They'll never leave.
And in fact, Scarborough said something that's true. Connecticut's not really recovered from the loss of all those jobs because they went up to Massachusetts. They're like, goodbye, we're not dealing with you. They only had to go 70 miles or something. And
in all these different states, Virginia, they showed Virginia, Washington State, a bunch of states are saying to Delta, hey, come here, we'll take you. My favorite, there was a tweet that actually went out to somebody tweeted in response to Delta because Delta and FedEx about the whole kerfuffle, and I found it in the feed, and I just thought it was interesting. So this was FedEx. This was a tweet to FedEx. We don't agree with racism. This is a quote. This is FedEx talking. We don't agree with racism, but we're going to be giving all KKK members 20% off shipping of white sheets. And so then someone says, see how stupid that sounds, FedEx, because FedEx has taken that path of no, 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 and Delta's, done the tougher stand. So it's an issue. You and I have always not been fans of boycotts to a certain extent. They're good for raising awareness of an issue, and sometimes they don't necessarily hurt companies. They talk about divestitures a lot of times. People just end up going to buy the stock cheap.
Yeah.
So,
and you and I have also been on the receiving end of boycotts, especially when we did our groundbreaking LGBT marketing, and we were afraid of it because now, when you get tons of handwritten letters either in crayon, pen, or pencil, and they're all saying the same thing with slight misspellings, or an executive at a company gets flooded with email, they don't want that. They want that to go away. So to have someone like you on the inside say they're not buying our product to begin with, and that's a whole other side of this boycott thing. And that's another thing that they talked about on Morning Joe recently. 3 to 6 million members of the NRA, right? Versus 240 million other Americans who aren't. And then that's your company caters to one or the other, choose your market. I'll be curious to see what happens with Delta. What do you want to bet that the Georgia Senate actually passes that tax cut?
Oh, they'll pass it because I'm sure they realize
behind closed doors. What do you think is being said behind closed doors?
Shut your mouth.
Or we're walking.
Right, because at the end, or it's at the end of at the end of the day, if I think the legislature and the governor will step in and say, listen, do you understand what this would do to our economy? You've already put a black eye on us. Let's try to make this right. And if you're Delta, I mean, to just pick up and move a headquarters is not easy, as you know. And so to just pick up a hub. But they could threaten it. They could say, you know what, we can go. There's plenty of other places we could go park our planes at night.
Or they could do something even worse. They could keep the hub, but they could diminish all flights in and out, and they could simply say, you know what, we're a little more happy with all the air traffic.
We'll go to Charlotte, or we'll go to Cincinnati.
So they could keep the hub, but they'd cut their workforce down from 33,000 to 3,000.
Yep.
There you go. Where's the?
We're going to get these 30,000 jobs replaced. No, it's an interesting thing, and I think this whole issue with the gun debate in NRA is I don't think we've seen the last of it, and I do hope these kids keep it up. I don't know. Do you think it will keep going, or?
They might have the tenacity to keep it up because Congress returned, and as a lot of news articles came out and said, Congress returned and everything went. Like, oh, okay, it's all dead because they're all, no, we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do this, we can't do that. But these kids have memories, and they saw something that we didn't see or experience. And I would say that that's going to be a very powerful motivator. And they have parents, and they have aunts and uncles.
They're going to be voting soon, and I'm glad that they're engaged in this. And it's horrifying to think that it took this event to get there, but. Why anybody thinks you need these guns is beyond me.
Sandy Hook, we're right near where we grew up.
3 miles from where I grew
up. The children were too young to have a voice in that, so it was their parents who had a voice, and it was senators and Obama. This is a little different because, and it would be, I suppose, like Columbine, because it was a high school, but they're 16, 17, they know what they're up to, and because they're kids, they see the utter hypocrisy. Probably better than we do. Yeah. Like, wait, you're saying this, you're doing that?
No, and how it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I hope this is a lesson for all of us. So we need to get out and vote.
But ultimately, on this boycott issue, you're saying it raises awareness, right?
Right.
Oh, you want to take a quick call?
Do you have time?
No, I don't think we do actually.
Don, we got 30 seconds.
A piece of wisdom about politics and business from my great-grandfather. God is a piece of paper 2.5 inches by 6 inches with pictures of dead white men on it, and it's absolute.
On that note,
there you go.
Thank you, Don.
That's, I love that, and we're going to have to make a promo of that. It's the
that is a promo for sure.
Thanks for joining us today. I know we're a little longer than usual, but thanks for joining us today. Tim Bennett here, as always, my good friend and co-host John Nash. We want to thank our friends at Deep Discount. Today's the last day to get the discount. If you want to go to our website, focusgroupradio.com, click on the Deep Discount logo, and when you check out, ending today, February 28th, it's FG15 and get 15% off. A special thanks to our friends at Volkswagen of America. Be sure to go to VW.com. Check out all the new cars they have. They've got some really cool cars coming on later in the year that they'll be launching. So they've got a product offensive that's coming on. And thanks to the boys in the booth, Garrett and John. Thanks to Allie. Welcome back. Thank you, Mr. Nash. You're on your phone. Everyone, don't forget to not text and you're
Don't text and drive. Arrive alive. There you go.
Unbutton Tuesday.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM Satellite Radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.